You're familiar with the routine. Retrieve a pot, fill it up at the sink, and carry it over to the cooktop. Most people think cooking with gas is preferred, but notice how the outside of the pot is affected when the flame is turned on. That shows how much heat is being thrown out into the kitchen. A cutting board is found at the far end of the kitchen and placed next to the sink. To perform even the simplest task in a non-galley kitchen, the cook has to continually stop what she's doing to retrieve the tools and equipment necessary for each task. Like now, she turns around to find a saucepan and sets it on the cooktop. The vegetables have to be carried over to it, then carefully placed into the pan. Notice how her back is to the kitchen. She has lost communication with her family and guests. After the sauce is added, she has to walk to the far end of the kitchen to the trash receptacle, twice. Then the cutting board is placed into the sink. Cooking with gas, this 5 quarts of water took 22 minutes to come to a boil. Now for the garlic bread. The same cutting board was rinsed and set on the counter. The garlic cloves were peeled and chopped, and butter melted in the below-counter microwave. After the garlic is added to the melted butter, the board needs to be rinsed again before the bread can be sliced. Notice the mess on the countertop. Another trip over to the trash, another rinse of the cutting board, and we're ready to slice the bread. Now to find the serrated knife. This cutting board is getting a workout today. As the garlic butter is spread onto the bread, notice the mess being created on the countertop and the floor. The bread is wrapped in foil and put into the oven. The cutting board gets cleaned for the 4th time. The counter is messy. Having to clean up after every step is really adding to the time and effort it takes to prepare this simple meal. Now to find the colander. There it is, way in the back. The sink's a mess, but there's no time to clean it right now. She has to find the pot holders. Now comes the tricky part. The heavy pot of boiling water has to be carried over to the sink and, as gracefully as possible, poured into the colander that sits in the bottom of the now messy sink. She finds a large bowl, sets it on the counter, and dumps the pasta into it. The colander is landed in the sink, and she walks back to the cooktop to grab the sauce. She then turns around and walks back to the bowl on the counter and pours the sauce onto the pasta. The saucepan goes into the sink along with everything else, and the plating up of the food happens on the crowded countertop. Preparing pasta in a galley kitchen. A pot is retrieved from a large drawer under the cooktop and set on the induction burner next to the galley. The pull-out spray from the nearby faucet serves as a pot filler, so the heavy pot does not have to be carried after it's filled. While the water is coming to a boil, which will take only 8.5 minutes on the induction cooktop, the veggies are rinsed and sliced right at the galley. How convenient to have the knives stored in the galley knife board right behind the cutting board. Notice that as the chef works away, she never once has to turn her back from her family or friends. The garlic clove is chopped, then scraped right into the bowl with the butter. So far, no countertop has been dirtied in the preparation of this meal. A saucepan is retrieved from the drawer under the cooktop, and the sliced veggies are slid right into it. The sauce, waiting on another cutting board at the galley, is slid closer and poured into the pan. There is a trash bin conveniently located under the cutting board, so the empty pasta jar is simply dropped into it. Scissors are taken from the galley knife board and used to open the package of spaghetti. As the pasta goes into the boiling water, notice that the chef has not yet had to take any steps away from the galley. The stylish flush ceiling vents conveniently draw steam and cooking odors out of the room. Built-in LED lighting illuminates the workspace beautifully. The French bread is ready to slice on a bamboo cutting board at the galley. She takes a serrated knife from the knife board and makes quick work of it, then rests the knife in the galley drain rack. There is plenty of room on this cutting board to butter all the slices of bread. The empty butter dish is placed in the separate cleanup sink behind her, and she takes the bread to the nearby oven. It only takes a minute to rinse off the knife and cutting boards at the galley. Notice that the counter has yet to be used, so it is staying clean and dry. Now look what's about to happen. Instead of searching the kitchen for a colander, she will simply slide the cutting board over where a large restaurant-style colander waits to be used. She grabs the handles of the pot. Because of induction, they're not even hot, and pours the pasta in boiling water easily into the colander. The empty pot is placed on the drain rack while the knives are dried and put away. Then she moves it to the cleanup sink behind her. The colander with the pasta is slid from under the cutting board, and a stainless bowl is slid from under the bamboo cutting board. The pasta is poured into the bowl, then that bowl is slid closer to the cooktop. See how easy it is to get the sauce now and pour it over the waiting spaghetti? The empty pan goes into the cleanup sink, and the bread is retrieved from the oven. How convenient is this? The 1/2 sheet pan rests perfectly on the lower tier of the galley. The galley now becomes the serving station. Now, which kitchen would you rather use?